Days of my role, the first year was as Deputy MD and Group CFO, began on 2nd April 2020. And that was a time when we had just hit a low point. The stock had lost about 70% of value. SsangYong was a major burden, and we had close to 5,000 crores of losses from what I called our loss-making entities. And as a result, the results of that year were just about break even. And it was the start of COVID and no revenue for the first month of April. So that was the starting point. But the foundation was very strong. And that's one thing I want to highlight in terms of the bruised blue chip story is that the foundation had been built over many years, and in fact it was a Motilal Oswal analyst report that in 2018 had highlighted that M&M was the best performing stock in the Nifty since 2002.
I mean, just talk us through, I mean, the point that Ramdevji made, external mistakes, internal, sometimes you kind of sort of go astray, large companies. So just talk us through those moments and what you saw.
So let's start with the losses. We knew that we had to address that, and we had to do that quickly. And therefore, we created a list of companies that made that 5,332 crores specifically of losses. SsangYong was highest on the list with 2,400 crores of losses that year. And we said that if we are to be credible, that's the first decision we have to take. And Ramdevji is right. A lot of people at that point said, you said this, but it's not going to happen. And therefore, we had to make that happen. But that wasn't enough because we still had another 26 or 2,800 crores of losses. And therefore, we had to exit a number of other companies, and we categorized them. We said, look, some of them actually could be good jewels for us if we can turn them around. So our categorization was category A, companies that can be turned around, and they will be companies that we'll be proud of, and they can meet our 18% RoE target. Category B, companies that will likely make some losses but have a quantifiable strategic benefit for us. And category C is none of the above, and therefore they need to exit. And we exited 15 companies in the next 18 months or so. And we just moved very quickly and did that. We did not wait in terms of any sequential order. We just started that simultaneously. So that was the first big step. The second big step was pivot to growth. Because just meeting an 18% RoE target is not enough. If you don't see EPS growth as investors, it doesn't matter from an investor standpoint. So we very quickly pivoted to growth from there. And we identified a set of companies that we thought were very strong and what we call the growth gems. And these were strong because they had a strong position in their industry, at least from a potential standpoint. They had a strong, what we call, right to win. And these growth gems collectively had valuation of less than $1 billion in March 2020, close to about 900 million. And the first thing we did there was to say that if you have an aspiration to be $1 billion company standalone, you'll be called a growth gem. And the aspiration has to be matched with a plan that in the next 3 to 5 years, you will be $1 billion company. 3 years later, the collective group had gone from 900 million to 3.4 billion. And we raised the bar. At that point, we said that to stay a growth gem, you've got to now grow 5x in the next 5 to 7 years. So that 3.4 must go to 17. And that's one part of what's driving our growth now, is the ambition as well as the ability to then deliver on each of our businesses.
You communicated obviously very clearly internally. Did you communicate as you were going along externally as well to the outside world, investors, the investor community?
In June 2020, June 12th, 2020, we communicated an 18% RoE target. And the basic response back from investors were, you're crazy, there's no way you're going to do this. Right?
But how did you arrive at 18%?
Because we just looked at it first to say that, look, if we take 5,000 crores of profit out, or rather losses out, right, that comes in. And here are certain growth targets which we think we can meet. And therefore we said, to be on the safe side, we'll get to 18% in 3 to 5 years. But we got there in 18 months because we could move quickly on getting those losses out, and we could meet certain growth targets that we laid out. So it was a very deliberate target based on here are the specific actions. If we take these actions, we get there.
And all these actions you did, you had a full authority to, because all these companies were collected by Mr. Mahendra with a lot of pain and effort. So did he give you full authority to just chop it off?
So the answer to that is yes. And that is one of the privileges, or I would say that something we're very grateful for, is that the teams were fully empowered. And I would, in all cases, go back to Mr. Mahindra and seek his guidance. And he gave very good guidance in a number of areas. And he always used to say that, look, your goal is to create investor value. And you do what's right for the company. And that is how we worked.
Amit, you want to come in as an investor's perspective?
Yeah, so I wanted to add two things to this. One, the turnaround becomes all... Sorry. I wanted to add two more things to this. The turnaround becomes all the more creditable because it was done during COVID. They made the announcement in August 20, like when you came up and said 18%. So that was in deep COVID. And then the follow through. And I have not seen a more publicly telegraphed and told to investors turnaround which has happened. Quarter on quarter, he would come on the conference call, he would put up the capital allocation chart and he would say, look, this is what I had said and this is what I'm doing. So all you had to do was to keep listening to the conference calls quarter and quarter and you would have made serious money. I'm not joking. 20 years I've not seen this kind of a telegraphing of a turnaround which has been happening on a public platform.
Well, we hear about